What if everything you've been told about protein is wrong? Not slightly off, not outdated, completely, fundamentally wrong. Because right now, while millions of people are standing in the meat aisle, paying premium prices for steaks and chicken breasts, convinced that's the only serious way to build muscle, maintain strength, and fuel their bodies, there are plants quietly sitting in fields, floating on ponds, and growing in backyards around the world that are absolutely destroying beef on protein content. Gram for gram, calorie for calorie, amino acid for amino acid. And here's the part that should make you stop and really think. This isn't new information. Ancient civilizations knew this. Warriors knew this. Monks knew this. Scientists have known this for decades. But somehow, the mainstream protein conversation keeps acting like meat is the only answer. Today, that changes. We're counting down 20 powerful plants that contain more protein than beef. And we're not talking about exotic powders or expensive supplements. We're talking about real foods. Foods with thousands of years of history. Foods backed by peer-reviewed science. Foods that have sustained empires, fueled athletes, and in some cases, been studied by NASA as the ideal nutrition for human survival in outer space. Stick around because plant number 14 on this list was literally banned by colonial authorities because they recognized it as a nutritional backbone of the civilization they were trying to destroy. You don't ban a food unless it's that powerful. And plant number 3 contains so much protein by dry weight that researchers in the 1940s seriously proposed it as a permanent solution to global food scarcity. Not a supplement, not an additive, a complete solution. On its own, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because every single week we're connecting real nutritional science with practical knowledge that actually changes how you eat, how you feel, and how you think about food. You don't want to miss what's coming. Let's get into it. Here are 20 powerful plants that contain more protein than beef, ranked from impressive to absolutely jaw-dropping. Plant 20, green peas, the backyard protein nobody respects. Let's start with the one that's going to make you feel slightly embarrassed about how long you've been ignoring it. Green peas. Those small, round, unassuming vegetables that have been sitting on the side of your plate since childhood, getting pushed around and mostly overlooked. Here's what nobody tells you about green peas. 1 cup delivers approximately 9 grams of protein. That's more protein than a whole egg. And unlike many plant foods, green peas contain all 9 essential amino acids, making them a surprisingly complete protein source that your body can actually use efficiently. The sports nutrition industry figured this out and ran with it. Pea protein isolate is now one of the fastest growing supplement categories in the entire fitness industry. Clinical trials comparing pea protein to whey protein, the gold standard of muscle building supplements, have shown comparable results in muscle growth and recovery. The humble green pea is passing tests that decades ago only animal proteins were expected to pass. But here's what makes peas special beyond the protein numbers. They're loaded with fiber, iron, B vitamins, and vitamin K. You're not just getting protein in isolation. You're getting a complete nutritional package that most cuts of beef simply cannot offer. Green peas have been a staple crop across Europe and Asia for thousands of years. They fed armies. They sustained families through harsh winters. They kept civilizations going long before anyone had ever heard of a protein shake. Peas got dismissed simply because they're ordinary. They're not trendy. They're not exotic. They cost almost nothing. But for anyone serious about protein intake, the green pea has been one of the most undervalued foods on the planet for a very long time. Think of it as a protein source that's been sitting on your plate your whole life, quietly doing serious work, just waiting for you to stop taking it for granted. Plant 19, black beans, the protein that built 2 continents. Black beans have been a cornerstone of indigenous diets across Central and South America for over 7,000 years. That number deserves a moment of respect. 7,000 years of consistent, reliable nutrition before modern science had a single word to say about macronutrients. 1 cup of cooked black beans delivers 15 grams of protein alongside 15 grams of fiber. That combination is critical. The protein builds and repairs. The fiber slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and keeps you full for hours longer than most animal proteins ever could. What makes black beans particularly remarkable is their antioxidant profile. The dark pigment that gives them their color comes from anthocyanins, the same powerful compounds found in blueberries. Research published in major nutrition journals links regular black bean consumption to reduce colorectal cancer risk, improved insulin sensitivity, significant cholesterol reduction, and gut microbiome benefits that ripple across your entire immune system. Black beans are also one of the most shelf-stable, affordable, and accessible protein sources available to anyone anywhere. It can cost under $1. A bag of dried beans costs even less and feeds a family for days. They got sidelined in mainstream Western nutrition when industrially produced cheap meat flooded the market. But cheap meat carries its own costs, environmental, metabolic, and long-term health costs that don't show up on the price tag. The cultures that never stopped eating black beans, those across Latin America, the Caribbean, and increasingly the Mediterranean, consistently rank among the world's healthiest and longest-lived populations. Think of it as a bean that fed a hemisphere for thousands of years before anyone gave it a trendy rebrand, and it never needed the rebrand be extraordinary. Plant 18, pumpkin seeds, the protein hiding inside the decoration. Every October, millions of people carve pumpkins, scoop out the insides, and throw away one of the most nutritionally dense food their hands have ever touched. 1 ounce of whole pumpkin seeds delivers 9 grams of protein. By weight, that rivals most cuts of beef. And beyond the protein, pumpkin seeds are one of the most mineral-dense foods available from any source, plant or animal. They're loaded with zinc, magnesium, iron, and phosphorus at levels that genuinely compete with red meat. Zinc is the mineral most people assume they can only get from animal products. Pumpkin seeds are one of the few plants that deliver it in meaningful, bioavailable amounts. That zinc matters for immune function, testosterone production, wound healing, and cellular repair. Research links regular pumpkin seed consumption to improve prostate health, better sleep quality through their tryptophan content, lower blood pressure from their magnesium levels, and anti-inflammatory activity that supports long-term cardiovascular health. Indigenous communities across the Americas knew this. They roasted pumpkin seeds, ground them into paste, incorporated them into traditional remedies, and used them as a primary protein source centuries before anyone had access to modern nutritional analysis. The seeds are extraordinarily practical. They store easily, travel well, require no preparation, and work in virtually every food application from salads to smoothies to soups to granola. Think of it as a protein the whole country literally puts on its porch every fall and throws in the trash while spending money on supplements to fill the exact nutritional gaps these seeds would solve. Plant 17, lentils, the ancient protein that kept humanity alive. Lentils have been feeding humans for at least 13,000 years. That is not a typo. 13,000 years of continuous cultivation, making lentils one of the oldest domesticated crops in human history. They appear in ancient Egyptian archaeological sites. They show up in the Bible. They fed armies across the Middle East and Mediterranean for millennia, and modern nutritional science is confirming, with peer-reviewed research, exactly why every ancient civilization kept coming back to them. 1 cup of cooked lentils delivers 18 grams of protein. That exceeds 2 eggs. That's comparable to a serving of ground beef. And it costs a fraction of the price while also delivering some of the highest fiber content of any food, folate, iron, potassium, manganese, and one of the lowest glycemic indexes of any carbohydrate food ever measured. Studies on populations eating lentils regularly show dramatically lower rates of cardiovascular disease, better blood sugar regulation, improved digestive health, and significantly lower all-cause mortality. The research isn't suggesting lentils are beneficial. It's confirming they're among the most health-protective foods humans have ever eaten. Here's the practical advantage that makes lentils uniquely accessible. They require no soaking. Red lentils cook in 15 minutes. Even the larger varieties are ready in under 30. No other dried legume comes close to that convenience. Lentils got pushed to the margins when cheap industrial meat became the norm. But those who never abandoned them, populations across India, the Middle East, Ethiopia, and the Mediterranean, continue to demonstrate through their health outcomes exactly what lentils have always been capable of. Think of it as a food that kept the world fed through every famine, every war, every collapse, and every hardship humanity has ever faced. It did it quietly, reliably, and for 13,000 years without asking for any recognition. Plant 16, chickpeas, the legume that built the Mediterranean world. Chickpeas have been found in archaeological sites dating back 9,000 years. From the ancient Middle East, they spread across the Mediterranean, through India, across North Africa, and eventually worldwide. And every culture that adopted them built signature dishes around them, because once you have chickpeas, you understand immediately what you're working with. 1 cup of cooked chickpeas delivers 15 grams of protein alongside fiber, folate, manganese, iron, and phosphorus. But the protein numbers only begin to tell the story. Research consistently connects chickpea consumption to lower LDL cholesterol, better blood sugar management, improved gut microbiome diversity, and long-term weight management through their exceptional satiety effects. The combination of protein and fiber in chickpeas creates a fullness signal that lasts hours beyond the meal itself. The versatility of chickpeas is genuinely unmatched in the legume world. hummus, falafel, chana masala, roasted chickpea snacks, chickpea flour for high-protein gluten-free flatbreads, aquafaba, the liquid from canned chickpeas, can be whipped into meringue. No other single legume transforms into this range of textures, flavors, and applications. Western diets largely pushed chickpeas aside when meat became cheap and culturally dominant. But the Mediterranean and Middle Eastern populations that never stopped eating them consistently rank among the healthiest, longest-lived people on Earth. The connection between diet and outcome has been studied, replicated, and confirmed repeatedly. Think of it as a legume that helped build civilizations across 3 continents and is currently sitting in your pantry and akin, waiting for you to finally take it as seriously as it deserves. Plant 15, hemp seeds, the complete protein that got punished for its family name. Hemp has one of the most unjust nutritional histories of any food on Earth. Cannabis sativa was cultivated for fiber, oil, and nutrition for thousands of years across Asia, Europe, and eventually the Americas. Ancient Chinese texts reference hemp as a food source. Egyptian records mention it. Entire economies were built around it. Then prohibition targeted all cannabis plants, and hemp agriculture collapsed in large parts of the world, taking one of the most nutritionally complete foods in existence with it. 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds deliver 10 grams of complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids in ratios that closely match what the human body actually needs. That's comparable to 1.5 ounces of chicken, but arrives packaged with omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids in an ideal anti-inflammatory ratio, plus magnesium, iron, and zinc. What makes hemp protein particularly special is its digestibility. It contains 2 highly bioavailable proteins, edestin and albumin, that your body processes efficiently without the digestive stress that some other protein sources cause. Research shows hemp protein supports immune function and provides measurable anti-inflammatory benefits. Hemp seeds have a mild, slightly nutty flavor that integrates into virtually anything without changing the taste. Smoothies, salads, oatmeal, yogurt, pasta. 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds and you've added serious protein without altering your meal. Hemp is finally legal again across much of the world, and the nutritional case for it is ironclad. The stigma that came from its family name held back one of the most complete protein sources nature produces for decades. Think of it as a seed that finally got its reputation back and brought 10 grams of complete protein along to celebrate. Plant 14, amaranth. The grain empires tried to erase. This is the one I teased at the beginning, and the story behind it makes it one of the most extraordinary foods on this entire list. Amaranth was so nutritionally vital to the Aztec Empire that it was used in sacred religious ceremonies and collected as tribute from conquered peoples. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the Americas, they made a calculated decision. If you want to break a civilization, destroy its food. They banned amaranth cultivation specifically to sever the nutritional and cultural foundation of the people they were subjugating. That is how powerful this grain was understood to be. Empires don't ban foods that don't matter. 0.1 cup of cooked amaranth delivers 9 grams of protein with a uniquely impressive amino acid profile. It's one of the only grains that contains high levels of lysine, the amino acid most plant proteins lack entirely. That makes amaranth's protein not just plentiful, but genuinely complete and highly usable by your body. Research confirms what the Aztecs built an empire on. Amaranth is highly digestible, has demonstrable anti-inflammatory effects, supports cardiovascular health, helps regulate cholesterol, and is naturally gluten-free, making it accessible to people that most grains exclude. It grows in conditions that would kill other crops: heat, drought, poor soil. Amaranth thrives where other plants fail, which is part of why it was so valuable to civilizations operating in challenging environments. You can cook amaranth as a porridge, pop it like popcorn, add it to baked goods, or blend it as a thickener in soups and stews. It has a slightly nutty, earthy flavor that works in both sweet and savory applications. Indigenous people kept growing amaranth in secret after the colonial ban. They hid it. They protected it. They refused to let it die. Think of it as a grain that an empire tried to erase from history, that survived by hiding in plain sight, and that modern nutrition science is now recognizing as one of the most complete protein sources ever discovered. Plant 13, quinoa, the sacred food the Incas call the mother of all grains. The Inca emperor planted the first quinoa seeds of each season personally, using a golden spade, in a ceremony that recognized what every person in the empire already understood. This grain was the foundation of their survival. Quinoa sustained entire civilizations in the high Andes for over 5,000 years at elevations where almost nothing else would grow. The Incas called the mother of all grains. They weren't being poetic. They were being accurate. 1 cup of cooked quinoa delivers 8 grams of complete protein, containing all 9 essential amino acids. That is extraordinarily rare for any plant food. Most grains are missing 1 or more essential amino acids entirely. Quinoa is not. Research shows its protein quality is comparable to casein, the protein in milk. It's naturally gluten-free. It cooks in 15 minutes. Beyond the protein, quinoa delivers magnesium, iron, zinc, B vitamins, and manganese at levels that make it genuinely one of the most nutritionally dense grains in existence. Studies show it has anti-inflammatory properties, supports blood sugar regulation, and provides antioxidant protection that most grains simply cannot offer. The Spanish banned quinoa cultivation for the same reason they banned amaranth. They recognized it as a nutritional pillar, supporting the civilization they were trying to collapse. The Incas kept it alive in remote mountain communities where colonial control couldn't reach. Always rinse quinoa thoroughly before cooking. The seeds are coated in saponins, natural bitter compounds, that need to be washed away. Traditional Andean preparation always included this step. Modern cooking should too. Think of it as the ancient grain that answered every argument ever made for why you need meat to get complete protein, and has been waiting patiently for 500 years for the rest of the world to catch up. Plant 12, edamame, the snack that quietly outperforms chicken. Here's a stat that stops people every single time they hear it. 1 cup of shelled edamame delivers 18.5 grams of complete protein. That's more protein per calorie than a 3-ounce serving of chicken breast. The food you mindlessly snack on at the sushi restaurant is outperforming the protein source that Western fitness culture has treated as a gold standard for decades. Edamame is simply soybeans harvested early, while they're still young, green, and sweet. In that form, they're extraordinarily rich in protein, vitamin K, folate, vitamin C, iron, and isoflavones that research has linked to improved heart health, better bone density, and hormonal support in women across multiple clinical trials. The old mythology around soy causing hormonal disruption has been thoroughly and repeatedly debunked by large-scale, peer-reviewed meta-analyses. The populations across East Asia who have eaten edamame and other soy foods for thousands of years have some of the longest lifespans and lowest rates of heart disease and hormone-related cancers on Earth. The data doesn't support the fear. Edamame takes 5 minutes to prepare. Steam in the pod, season with sea salt, eat it directly, or shell it and add it to grain bowls, stir-fries, salads, or blend it into a high-protein dip. It's one of the most effortless protein upgrades available. Think of it as a soybean in its most honest, most complete form, before processing strips away everything that makes it worth eating. We are exactly halfway through this list, and if you're still watching, you already understand something that most people don't. Protein is not a meat conversation. It never was. It's a nutrient conversation. And nutrients don't care about tradition, marketing, or what the person next to you at the grocery store thinks is normal. We still have 11 plants to go, and they get progressively more extraordinary. The numbers coming up in the top 10 are going to challenge everything you've accepted about where protein comes from. Let's keep going. Plant 11, nutritional yeast, the complete protein that tastes like cheese but needs no cow. Nutritional yeast is the food that throws people off completely the first time they encounter it. It's a deactivated yeast grown on molasses or beet sugar, dried into golden flakes, and it tastes remarkably, almost inexplicably, like Parmesan cheese. 2 tablespoons deliver 8 grams of complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids, and almost no fat or carbohydrates. But here's what pushes nutritional yeast beyond just a good protein source. Most fortified brands are one of the only reliable non-animal sources of vitamin B12, the single nutrient most often cited as a genuine challenge in plant-based eating. You're solving 2 nutritional gaps with 1 ingredient. The beta-glucans in nutritional yeast support immune function and have demonstrated measurable effects on LDL cholesterol reduction in clinical research. The zinc and selenium content is meaningful. The B vitamin profile across the board is exceptional, and the applications are genuinely limitless. Sprinkle it on pasta, stir it into soups, blend it into dairy-free cheese sauces, shake it on popcorn, add it to scrambled eggs. If you eat them, it dissolves easily and adds a savory, umami-rich depth to everything it touches. Nutritional yeast got overlooked for decades primarily because the name is terrible. It sounds like a health food punishment rather than something that actually tastes incredible. Think of it as the cheese flavor that brought a full amino acid profile, an AB12 solution to the table, and never once needed an animal to make it happen. Plant 10, peanuts, the protein hiding in the most obvious place on Earth. Peanuts are so common, so familiar, so deeply woven into everyday life that we have completely forgotten how nutritionally remarkable they are. 1 ounce of peanuts delivers 7 grams of protein. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter deliver 8 grams. By weight, peanuts contain more protein than most tree nuts and rival many cuts of meat. They're also rich in niacin, folate, magnesium, vitamin E, and heart-healthy monounsaturated fats that research consistently links to reduce cardiovascular disease risk. The Harvard Nurses' Health Study, one of the largest and longest-running nutritional studies ever conducted, found that people eating nuts including peanuts 5 or more times per week had significantly lower rates of heart disease. Not marginally lower, significantly lower. The kind of difference that reframes what you think of as a serious protective food. Peanuts are one of the most protein-dense foods available at essentially any price point. Peanut butter on whole grain bread might be the single most cost-effective high-protein meal a human being can prepare. It takes 90 seconds. It costs less than $1. It delivers genuine nutrition. They got dismissed as a serious protein source because they're associated with childhood lunches and stadium snacks. Cultural perception buried the nutritional reality. Think of it as a protein that's been hiding in the most obvious place in your house your entire life, waiting for you to stop treating it like a snack and start treating it like the nutritional powerhouse it actually is. Plant 9, tofu, the 2,000-year-old innovation everyone has tried wrong. Most Americans have had a bad tofu experience. Waterlogged, bland, texturally somewhere between disappointing and regrettable. And that experience has nothing to do with what tofu actually is when it's prepared correctly. Half a cup of firm tofu provides 10 grams of complete protein alongside calcium, iron, manganese, and selenium. Research on soy protein consistently shows cardiovascular benefits, including reduced LDL cholesterol and lower systemic inflammation. The American Heart Association recognizes soy protein's cardiovascular benefits explicitly. Here is the single preparation secret that changes everything. Press the water out before you cook it. Wrap firm tofu in a kitchen towel, place something heavy on top, and wait 30 minutes. What emerges is a completely different ingredient. Pressed tofu absorbs marinades deeply, crisps in a cast-iron skillet, holds structure in stir-fries, and develops a satisfying chew that waterlogged tofu will never produce. Tofu has been a protein staple in East Asian cuisine for over 2,000 years across a population base of billions of people. Those populations, eating tofu regularly as a dietary foundation, consistently demonstrate lower rates of cardiovascular disease and certain cancers than Western populations eating meat-centric diets. Tofu never had a protein problem. It had a preparation problem. And that's entirely fixable in 30 minutes with a kitchen towel. Think of it as a protein that kept getting blamed for the cook's mistakes and is long overdue for the honest assessment it deserves. Plant 8, tempeh, the fermented powerhouse that outperforms beef. Tempeh is where things get serious. This traditional Indonesian food, developed in Java roughly 1,000 years ago, is made from whole soybean fermented with a specific mold that binds them into a firm, dense cake and transforms their nutritional profile in the process. 3 ounces of tempeh delivers 17 grams of protein. That exceeds a 3-ounce beef patty. But the protein content is actually the secondary story with tempeh, because what fermentation does to those soybeans is what makes this food genuinely extraordinary. The fermentation process breaks down phytic acid and other anti-nutrients that interfere with mineral absorption in unfermented soy. That means the protein and minerals in tempeh are significantly more bioavailable than in regular beans or tofu. Your body absorbs more of what you're eating. The fermentation also creates B vitamins and produces bioactive peptides with documented anti-inflammatory and cholesterol-lowering properties that unfermented soy simply doesn't possess. You also retain the complete fiber of the original soybean, unlike protein isolates and processed soy products that strip the fiber away entirely. This is whole food nutrition at its most complete. The texture of tempeh is firm and nutty with a satisfying chew that holds up to virtually any cooking method. Slice it thin and pan-fry it with garlic. Crumble it into grain bowls and stews. Marinate it overnight in soy sauce, ginger, and garlic and grill it. It absorbs flavors deeply and delivers a protein density that challenges anything the meat aisle offers. Think of it as the ancient fermented protein that 1,000 years of Javanese history already endorsed, that modern sports nutrition is just now beginning to understand. Plant 7, pumpkin seed protein / Sasha inchi, the Amazonian protein the rainforest kept secret. Most people have never heard of Sasha inchi. That changes today. These star-shaped seeds from Peruvian Amazon contain approximately 9 grams of complete protein per ounce alongside some of the highest omega-3 fatty acid concentrations found in any plant food anywhere on Earth. The amino acid profile rivals soy. The digestibility is exceptional. The anti-inflammatory potential from the omega-3 concentration is measurable and clinically documented. Indigenous Amazonian communities have relied on Sacha inchi for centuries as a primary combined protein and fat source. The seeds are roasted and eaten whole, pressed into oil, or ground into paste. Traditional knowledge recognized long, before modern analysis, exactly what these seeds contain and exactly how to use them. What's happening now is that the global demand for complete plant proteins with healthy fat profiles has created a market that Sacha inchi fills almost perfectly. Food industry analysts are calling it the next quinoa. Research is accelerating. Commercial cultivation is expanding. The reason Sacha inchi remained hidden from the wider world for so long isn't because it was nutritionally inferior. It's because it grows in the Amazon, which is remote, and because the commercial infrastructure to bring it to global markets took centuries to develop. But the indigenous communities who've eaten it for generations always knew exactly what they had. Think of it as the protein the rainforest protected until the rest of the world was finally ready to understand its value. Plant 6, seitan, the plant protein champion Buddhist monks figured out 1,500 years ago. If you want the highest pure protein density available from any plant source, and you don't have celiac disease or gluten sensitivity, seitan is in a category of its own. A 3-ounce serving delivers between 20 and 25 grams of protein. That puts it ahead of most chicken, most pork, and most beef by direct comparison. It's low in fat, low in carbohydrates, and contains meaningful amounts of iron and calcium. Seitan is made from vital wheat gluten. The protein component of wheat after the starch has been washed away through a simple water rinsing process. Buddhist monks in China developed this technique over 1,500 years ago as a high-protein food source during extended periods of meat abstinence. The result was so nutritionally effective and culinarily satisfying that it became a staple across Buddhist communities throughout East Asia and has been refined through centuries of culinary tradition. The texture is the most compelling feature for anyone accustomed to meat. Seitan has a firm, meaty chew that holds up to grilling, braising, slicing, and crumbling in ways that most plant proteins cannot match. It absorbs marinades deeply, develops complex flavor when properly seasoned, and has genuinely passed blind taste tests against conventional meat in controlled settings. The one critical caveat is gluten. Seitan is literally made of gluten and is completely unsuitable for anyone with celiac disease or serious gluten sensitivity. For everyone else, it's one of the most protein-dense, most satisfying, most culinarily versatile plant proteins that exists. Think of it as the monk food that figured out 25 grams of plant protein per serving over a millennium before anyone had a nutrition tracking app. Plant 5, Morina, the miracle tree that outperforms everything. Morina oleifera has been called the miracle tree in virtually every traditional medicine and agricultural system that has ever encountered it. And when you see the complete nutritional profile, you understand why that name stuck across so many different cultures on so many different continents. Dried morina leaves contain approximately 25 to 30% protein by weight, with all 9 essential amino acids present. A single ounce delivers around 6 grams of complete protein, but the protein is almost a secondary headline. Gram for gram, dried morina leaves contain more calcium than milk, more iron than spinach, more potassium than bananas, and more vitamin C than oranges. The antioxidant compounds called isothiocyanates in morina have shown anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, and potentially anti-cancer effects across multiple peer-reviewed studies. Clinical research documents moringa's ability to lower blood sugar, reduce systemic inflammation markers, and improve lipid profiles in people with metabolic conditions. Traditional communities across Africa, South Asia, and Central America have relied on morina as a primary nutrition source for centuries, particularly in regions where animal protein is expensive, scarce, or simply unavailable. This isn't a supplement trend. It's a survival food with millennia of real-world validation behind it. Morina grows extraordinarily fast, sometimes reaching 12 to 15 feet in its first year, and can be harvested continuously throughout the growing season. The fresh leaves cook like spinach with a mildly peppery flavor. Dried and powdered, they stir into smoothies, soups, and stews without dramatically altering flavor, while delivering an outsized nutritional impact. Think of it as a tree whose leaves contain more complete nutrition per gram than almost any food ever analyzed, growing quietly in warm climates around the world while the rest of us spend money on supplements trying to replicate what it produces naturally. Plant 4, chlorella, the cellular protein machine NASA took seriously. Chlorella is a single-celled freshwater algae with a protein content of 50 to 60% by dry weight. Let that number settle for a moment. 50 to 60% protein. Beef is approximately 26%. Chicken is approximately 31%. Chlorella nearly doubles both. The amino acid profile is complete. The protein is highly bioavailable once the outer cell wall has been cracked through mechanical processing. This is why you want to specifically look for cracked cell wall chlorella on any product label you buy. Whole cell chlorella passes through your digestive system largely intact, and you absorb a fraction of what's in it. NASA studied chlorella alongside spirulina as an ideal food source for long-duration space missions. When the mission parameters require maximum nutrition from minimum weight and volume, chlorella makes the short list. That's not a marketing claim. That's an engineering assessment of nutritional density under the most demanding conditions human beings can face. Beyond the protein, chlorella is the most chlorophyll-dense food ever measured. That chlorophyll concentration gives it documented detoxification properties. Clinical research shows that regular chlorella consumption measurably reduces heavy metal accumulation in the body, specifically mercury and cadmium, which is an increasingly meaningful benefit for anyone who eats seafood regularly in an era of widespread ocean contamination. Research also documents improved immune function, better gut health, and anti-inflammatory activity from its unique combination of carotenoids, chlorophyll, and bioactive peptides. 3 to 5 grams daily, stirred into water, juice, or a smoothie, is a dose used in most peer-reviewed clinical research. The taste is earthy and green but milder than spirulina, and it integrates easily into a morning smoothie without dominating the flavor. Think of it as a 60% protein food that quietly detoxes heavy metals while it feeds you, and does both without asking for much credit. Plant 3, spirulina, the ancient algae that could end food scarcity. And here's the number that stops every single person who hears it for the first time. Spirulina, a blue-green algae, is between 55 and 65% protein by dry weight. 3 tablespoons of spirulina powder deliver 12 grams of complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids from something that dissolves in water in seconds. In the 1940s, researchers seriously proposed spirulina as a complete solution to global food scarcity, not as a supplement, not as an additive, as a standalone solution. Because when your food source is 65% complete protein and grows in water with minimal inputs and doubles its biomass in days, the food scarcity math changes fundamentally. The Aztecs harvested spirulina from Lake Texcoco centuries before modern nutritional science existed, drying it into dense cakes that sustained their civilization. NASA studied it for space missions. The World Health Organization has recognized it as a potential tool against malnutrition in developing nations. These are not overlapping coincidences. They're independent confirmations from completely different fields arriving at the same conclusion. Multiple peer-reviewed clinical trials confirm spirulina reduces LDL cholesterol, lowers blood pressure, improves immune function, reduces anemia in elderly patients, and demonstrates measurable anti-inflammatory effects through its phycocyanin content, the blue pigment that gives spirulina its distinctive color and is one of the most potent natural anti-inflammatory compounds ever identified in food. Think of it as the ancient algae that Aztec warriors ate, that NASA engineers studied, and that might genuinely be the most nutrient-dense food ever discovered on this planet. Plant 2, lupin beans, the Mediterranean secret that protein science almost missed. Lupin beans might be the most underrated legume on Earth. Lupinous species, particularly white lupin, have been cultivated around the Mediterranean for over 3,000 years. Ancient Romans ate them. Egyptian records reference them. And modern nutritional research is only now beginning to catch up with what Mediterranean cultures have known practically for millennia. Lupin beans contain approximately 36 to 40% protein by dry weight. That's comparable to soybeans and significantly higher than almost any meat by direct weight comparison. The protein quality is excellent with a strong balance of essential amino acids and a particularly impressive digestibility score. Clinical studies show lupin protein has measurable cholesterol-lowering effects, supports healthy weight management through exceptional satiety, and provides prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria linked to reduce systemic inflammation and improve immune response. The plants themselves are beautiful. They grow tall with striking flowers and fixed nitrogen in the soil, improving conditions for whatever crop follows them, making them valuable not just as food, but as a regenerative agricultural tool. Traditional Mediterranean preparation involves brining and soaking the beans to remove natural bitter alkaloids, after which they're eaten as snacks, used in traditional dishes, or increasingly ground into lupin flour used in high-protein breads and pastas across Europe. Lupin largely disappeared from American agriculture because soybeans dominated the protein crop market, and because the preparation process requires patience that industrial food systems weren't designed to accommodate. Think of it as a 3,000-year-old Mediterranean protein secret that soybean dominance buried, and that modern nutrition is finally beginning to unearth. Plant 1, duckweed, the fastest growing protein on Earth. And here we are at number 1. The food most people have never considered eating, but that represents something genuinely extraordinary about where protein science is heading. Duckweed, those tiny green plants that float on the surface of ponds and slow-moving water. The ones most people dismiss as pond scum. Wolffia and Lemna species contain up to 40 to 45% protein by dry weight. That's not a misprint. 40 to 45% complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids, alongside omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals, in a plant that doubles its biomass every 48 hours. NASA has studied duckweed as a potential food source for space missions specifically because of that growth rate combined with that nutritional density. When you're calculating food supply for a Mars mission, a plant that doubles its protein-rich biomass every 2 days is not a curiosity. It's a solution. Duckweed has been eaten in Southeast Asia for centuries, in Thailand and Laos it's called kai nam, and used in soups and salads. The taste is mild and slightly vegetable-like, similar to watercress. Some people blend it into smoothies, dry it into powder, or cook it like spinach. The protein density rivals or exceeds every other entry on this list. The growth efficiency makes every other food source look wasteful by comparison. The environmental footprint is minimal. The potential for sustainable large-scale protein production is enormous. Duckweed got overlooked in the West simply because we never developed a culinary tradition around aquatic plants. But that has nothing to do with what it is nutritionally and everything to do with cultural familiarity. The science is unambiguous. The potential is extraordinary. Think of it as a protein factory that literally doubles itself every 2 days, grows in water with no soil, no pesticides, and minimal resources, and produces more complete protein per square foot than almost any other food source ever studied. The future of protein might not be in the pasture. It might be on the pond. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, you just experienced a fundamental shift in how the protein conversation needs to be framed. The idea that you need beef or any animal protein to get serious, complete, muscle-building, life-sustaining protein is not just outdated. It is not supported by the science. It has not been supported by thousands of years of human history. And it is increasingly contradicted by the health outcomes of the populations who never bought into it. These 20 plants aren't niche supplements or fringe health claims. They're real. They're accessible. They're backed by peer-reviewed research published in the world's leading nutritional journals. And several of them outperform beef on every metric that actually matters for human health. Some cost pennies per serving. Some grow in your backyard. Some have been sustaining civilizations for 13,000 years. And one of them, NASA is studying as the most efficient protein source for the most extreme environment humans have ever attempted to survive in. The protein is out there. It always has been. Now here's what I need from you. If this video changed the way you think about protein, smash that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps this content reach more people who need to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me which plant on this list surprised you the most. Are you team ancient grains? Team fermented foods? Team algae? I read every single comment, and I want to know where you're starting. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. We're here every week connecting real science with practical knowledge that empowers you to make decisions about your health based on evidence rather than marketing. The protein conversation just changed, and you were here for it. See you in the next one.